serving on the board of trustees has been really one of the greatest experiences of my life. I'm grateful for the spirit that exists on the board of selflessness. No one has an agenda. It's only what can we do to make the school better. And I came to know some absolutely wonderful people. Father Salmon, for saying yes to McQuaid in 2010 when we needed a president. We needed a president quickly, and he responded selflessly by coming back and doing a wonderful job as the president. For Father Reiser, for coming to McQuaid and bringing the kind of leadership that he has brought to this institution in the last several years. To Adam Baber, for his wonderful contributions as the principal. We have a great team in place here. Tim Nally has done a marvelous job of bringing the school the kind of funds that we need to help us grow. I'm very grateful for the leadership of Phil Pecora and Dan Mahar and the entire board as we move forward into the future. I would also like to say thank you and show my gratitude to the two Jesuit provincials who served while I was the chair of the board, Father Dave Sansamino and Father John Cicero, because it truly is a partnership, and without their agreement to the leadership that we need in the school, it's very difficult to have that leadership, and the leadership is really very important. I'd like to comment just for a moment on what I experienced, I think what we all experience, as the tremendous commitment to Jesuit education that we see in the Rochester community and in the McQuaid community. And for me, that goes back to the founding of the school in the early 1950s. I became intrigued by the history of the school when I began to serve on the board. And then in, I think, a truly seminal event that really has defined the school over the last 50 years and defines the school today was the decision in 1968, which was announced by the Jesuit provincial at that time, in response to a declining number of Jesuits and certain financial realities. And that decision was to close McQuaid. You can imagine the shock that must have gone through the school in 1968. And it was not widely known, but it was a decision by the provincial that we need to close McQuaid because we don't have enough Jesuits, and the financial realities dictated it, the preservation of resources. And 10 individuals, if I had more time I would mention all 10 of them, 10 individuals went to New York and they pleaded with the provincial not to close McQuaid. They were businessmen, lawyers, some judges. They convinced the provincial, after some 18 months of effort, to keep the school open. And the arrangement was that a board would be formed, an independent board, that the board would, a legal entity, a not-for-profit educational corporation would be founded called McQuaid Jesuit High School, a chartered educational corporation under New York state law and education law. And that corporation, governed by a board of trustees, would take ownership of the school. More importantly, would take responsibility for the debt, which at that time was well over $1 million. They said, we'll take full responsibility for the debt. What we asked in return, and the Jesuits agreed, was that we would make our best efforts to provide Jesuits for McQuaid. And the agreement further states, and has been renewed time and again, but that agreement states, and I've always found this sentence very intriguing, it says that the Board of Trustees agrees to hold in trust the mission of Jesuit education at McQuaid. I've read that sentence many times, and every time I read it, it resonates with me as to what does that mean for us today, for the young men that we are educating at McQuaid in the second decade of the 21st century in Rochester, New York, given the realities of the world and a 500-year history of Jesuit education. inspired by St. Ignatius. What does that mean here in Rochester, New York, and how do we respond to that? And I think it's the entire community that holds that mission in trust, that mission of Jesuit education. I'd also like to say, with respect to the development and advancement of the school, that it has been a grand community effort by all of those people in this community that love McQuaid, in partnership with the Jesuits. Well, where has that taken us? In 1968, when the board was created, in 1970, the school had a debt of over $1 million. And I think there were $941 in the operating account. $941. Over the years, the financial condition of the school has been totally turned around by great leadership, great presidents, so many, Father Fisher, Father Salmon, Father Reiser, and many, many others who have created a very strong financial situation here at McQuaid. I also want to say how grateful we are to those many generous benefactors of the school who have made possible the development of the campus itself, which has totally transformed in the past short decade and a half. It's only been 15 years since an arts wing was built, the cafeteria was renovated, the field house was created, a new addition to the school, and now the STEM building. That represents almost nearly $40 million in funds that were generously donated to the school by the entire community that made all of that possible. And it really is remarkable. So I'd just like to close by saying my thank you for the experience. I took so much more out of the experience than I contributed. The people that I worked with, had the pleasure of working with on the board, were just some of the absolutely finest people I've ever had the opportunity to know. And I'm very grateful for that experience. And my thanks to Phil for taking this on. So thank you very much.